Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys all doing? You okay? We've got about, it's several hundred people watching because now I've finally hooked up the other one. So we're live on YouTube, Rockfin, and Rumble. In any case, please let me know wherever you're watching, where you're tuning in from in the comments section. What city, what town, what country, what county, whatever. Let me know in the comments. I can see some of you are already poking fun at the uninvited guests at the Arab League, which will, tend to very shortly and in good time. We've got people tuning in from Detroit, Michigan, from Jordan, from it's going too fast. So many people from Ladia, from Latakia in Syria, India, Chicago, Brussels, Canada, Ecuador, China, Denmark, Montreal, Barcelona, Iran, Malaysia, Egypt. I mean, if this isn't international, I don't know what is. UK, Somalia, Toronto, Sweden, Afghanistan, Greece, Serbia, Egypt, Portugal, Maldives, Kuwait, Ireland, and it goes on and on and on and on. So shout out to all of you guys. Let's get right down to it. And once again, just in case you don't know, I'm gonna get Odyssey working. Okay, so give me time till give me until next time. But we're live on YouTube, on Rockfin, and on Rumble. So let's rumble. Okay, hold on a second. Man, this Arab League business is just amazing. I really let's do it. Let's do it. Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president, at the Arab League summit in Saudi Arabia. I mean, this is the moment he's been waiting for, and I think the moment that a lot of others who attended were dreading, because although they accepted Syria back into the Arab League, Bashar al-Assad is sitting in a room full of people who tried to kill him, right? A lot of these countries, Saudi Arabia, the host, Qatar, who's still not on speaking terms, they all tried to oust him and they failed. And now they have to bite their tongues, swallow their pride, and, put on a somewhat smiley face. So here's Bashar al-Assad arriving in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, and a couple of photos posted here. They rolled out the carpet for him. Biden was treated so badly when he visited that I'm struggling to remember whether they even gave him a carpet. There must have been a carpet, right? Maybe a bad one or something. But Biden was treated like, that was on purpose. They did that on purpose. So here he is arriving. They're greeting him like any other leader, president, and Arab representative coming. No difference, right? Here's the Syrian foreign minister, also, the kisses and hugs and everything backstage. I mean, it's really funny, and I'm not saying it's bad or something. Not at all. It's good, that Arab League is happening with Syria, and they've taken Syria back, and so on. But who changed their position? Syria never changed his position. Bashar al-Assad, is still the president. So it really makes you wonder who is wrong here. Here they are introducing him. This is the other day welcoming the Syrian foreign minister back into the Arab League officially.
العزيز الصديق فيصل المقداد وزير خارجية الجمهورية العربية السورية، وأتمنى أن تكون استعادة سوريا لمقعدها مقدمة لإنهاء أزمتها.
Right, so So that was the other day. Now here, let's get to the speech. So let's talk about the speech. This is Bashar al-Assad. He's coming in, and it's a great big hall, right? And so you've got all the members of the Arab League at this summit, and
been talking about as African leaders, because
they had for a long time
in that part of the
they were mulling whether to accept Syria and have him back. So here's Bashar al-Assad. I'll let him speak, let the interpreter do his thing, and then I'll come in.
Struggles. The headlines are many, and this message is not sufficient, nor is this summit. We cannot forget the usurped rights of the Palestinian people, or the expansionist ideology of Ottomans, and here comes.
So when he's saying the Ottomans, obviously he's talking about Turkey, and Turkey's occupying a big chunk of Syria, a lot of what was Armenia. What should be Armenia, but was given to Turkey. A lot of Syria was given to Turkey by European colonizers. So he's talking about that, right? He's taking a jab at Turkey, even though Turkey is trying to fix things. Erdogan is saying he's not obviously Turkey is not an Arab nation, but Turkey's yet another country that's suddenly having to do a U-turn and swallow their pride and bite their tongues. And he's gone from I want to kill you and get rid of you all the way to let's make peace. We need to reconcile.
The role of the League of Arab States as the natural platform for discussing various issues and providing remedies on the condition that its mechanism is redeveloped by revisiting the internal bylaws in order to cope up with the recent developments. The joint Arab actions requires joint strategies and visions that can be translated into practical policies, uniform policies, fixed mechanisms, and clear tools. By that time, we will be ahead of time, and we will have a haven to resort to against any aggressions.
So he's basically saying that this whole organization needs to do what it was originally formed to do, which is to be self-sufficient, to be able to rely on one another, and he's basically saying without having foreign actors, Turkey, the United States, Israel, the EU, whoever it is, interfering. Okay, so that's the message that he's sending. He's saying you all need to get your act together, and we need to actually fix this institution. He's not just saying, "Oh, thank you for taking me back." He doesn't actually make any mention of that. He certainly alludes to it, and Syria's importance, and we'll get to that in a second, though.
As to the daily crises from Libya to Syria, Yemen to Sudan, and many others in different areas, we cannot cure diseases by attending to symptoms.
This guy's a doctor, so he's speaking like one, right? He's literally a doctor.
All these crises are the offspring or previous issues that remained unresolved. Speaking of some, requires us to address the cracks that has hit the Arab landscape, and the League of Arab States should resume its role as the curer of all ailment. Above all, leave the domestic affairs to our respective people. All what we have to do.
Assad gets his pound of flesh. Assad gets his pound of flesh. So he's come there and he's sitting face to face with all these people who tried to kill him, and he's saying, "Stay out of my country and mind your own damn business. We need to help. We need to work together, but we don't get involved in each other's domestic politics." So it's really funny, It's like what a flop. I mean, there never was an Arab Spring in Syria, right? I mean, there's definitely always been a movement, but you know, for whatever reason, well, I can tell you the reasons. It's very neo-colonial, but you know, it was hijacked, right? So whatever peaceful, democratic, reform that you know was going on in Syria, it turned into very, very, very nasty groups and funded by the countries in this very room, you know, by the leaders in this very room. And now he's telling them, mind your own business. We're not going to get along if we don't mind our own business and you know, if we don't stop meddling in each other's domestic affairs.
Is to prevent any foreign forces from intervening. With respect to Syria, its history, present remains within the Arab umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
We belong to the Arab region, and we cannot forget, however, we cannot change our identity. What?
Right, so he underscores, you know, Syria's cultural, historical importance as, you know, really the center of Arabism, the whole thing, right? So you know, you have Umayyad Mosque, which is, you could say, third or fourth most important holy site in Islam, and you have, of course, you know, Syria has so much history in all of the three, you know, the big three, you know, monotheistic religions, and of course in Arabism, right? So he says the phrase in a second, right? The one that I've told you many times.
Syria has always been the heart of Arabism and Arab nationality. Ladies and gentlemen, as we hold this summit in unstable global landscape, Syria remains in the heart of the Arab region, which is crowned by this summit, which I hope will pave the way for a new journey of joint Arab action, harmony, peace, prosperity, and welfare, rather than destruction and war. And within the 5 minutes allocated to me, I extend all thanks and appreciation to the heads of delegation who expressed their passion to the return of Syria, and I reciprocate. And I also thank the custodian of the two holy mosques for the efforts exerted by him for the sake of reconciliation within our region. And I wish...
Right. So, etc., etc. He came there and he got his pound of flesh. You know, he really gave it to them. I mean, even if he had said literally nothing, the fact that he is there, you know, I can bet you that a lot of them wish they weren't in the room. Not because they necessarily dislike him, but just of how foolish he's made them look. Like utter clowns. I mean, when I say he's sitting in a room full of people who tried to kill him, I mean that quite literally in every sense of the word. And the thing is, it's not about, oh well, poor him. This guy's, you know, he's the head of the state. You know, he represents the Syrian people, whether others like it or not. And they turned the whole country upside down. That's the worst part of it. And I'm sure he would agree with me that, you know, it's not, oh, they tried to kill me, which is the worst part, or the attempts on his life, which are the worst part. It's the entire country that was turned upside down. So, you know, in one sense, it's kind of funny, but it's very, very sad. You know, we could have skipped all of this. We could have skipped that entire chapter, left Syria alone, and just come to the same conclusion. You know, it's really sad that some people don't get this. A lot of people are mad about this. So I wanted to show you this kind of transitioning into what the hell Zelensky is doing there. So here are some headlines from the past week. This is Jerusalem Post. They're saying Syria's Assad to steal spotlight at Arab summit after years in the cold. Right? So they go into various critiques about, they shouldn't rehabilitate him and this and that, you know. And then here on Newsweek, they had Biden loses his biggest Syria battle yet. Well, no one made you play the game, you know. But anyway, they go here into a rant about how Biden's strategy in Syria, you know, is being shot to pieces, blown to pieces because the Arab League have welcomed Bashar al-Assad back. Oh no, the travesty. Here's another one. The UAE invited Bashar al-Assad to COP28, right? So this climate summit. And this is the first time that you're going to see Bashar al-Assad in the same room as not just other Arab leaders, but you know, international leaders. So I'm talking about, like, for example, the British Prime Minister, right? That's so awkward for them. They have to go. I can't imagine them boycotting it because of him. Maybe, but I think it would just draw so much attention to the fact that he is there, and that sucks for them. They don't want people to notice him, or you know, as they're saying in the Jerusalem Post, steal the spotlight. So I think they're gonna go, and it's just gonna be so awkward for them. Twice as much, I would add. But the way these Western politicians are just, you know, throwing the toys out of the pram, and it's amazing, you know. Here in The Guardian say Syria's Assad to attend Arab League summit as West opposes rehabilitation. And, you know, the German foreign minister, Pepe, you know, eloquently described as unfit to run a Bratwurst or Würstelstand, is, you know, moaning and whining about, Assad cannot be normalized unconditionally. You know, like she's the ruler of Syria and the head of the Arab League. We must put conditions on the normalizations, yeah? Okay, everybody? Hallo Ursula, wie geht's dir? Jesus Christ, man. So he says here, every step towards Assad should be made dependent on concrete concessions. Says who? I mean, again, you're looking like an absolute clown. You know, I don't recall her having any role with supporting the war and you know, during its entire duration. I suppose now de facto she does, because she's continuing the EU and Germany's efforts to kind of isolate Syria. But my point is that she could have just shut up about it and, you know, basically, again, bit her tongue. But now she has to come out and look like an idiot. Look, man, I'll tell you one thing. The fact that UAE invited Syria to COP28 and that Syria was at the Arab League, so not just readmitted or you know, reaccepted in the Arab League itself, but also at the summit today, and that Bashar al-Assad was one of the first to speak. I mean, it does speak volumes. And the West, they can't do anything about it. They're really, really mad. They're really, really mad about this. And, you know, honestly, I mean, this is another episode of, you notice how they say things like, Libya was a failure, or Afghanistan was like a foreign policy a blunder or something, like as if they didn't know what they were doing. No, they know exactly what they're doing. But this is a very potent example of why the West and their allies in the region, you know, they shouldn't meddle in other countries, and two, you know, it's a masterclass in Bashar al-Assad kind of just sliding back in there and making them all look like fools. He made them all look like fools, and they can't do a thing about it. And just as the Arab League are slowly, well, not slowly, but, you know, fully, you know, I wouldn't say normalizing ties like they say. It's a rapprochement. It's more of a rapprochement. With Syria, the rest of the world will follow suit. It's just, it's in the cards. And that's why Mrs. Baerbock is, you know, also throwing the toys out of the pram. Now let's get to Zelensky. Okay, let's get to Zelensky. I mean, when I heard that he was there, I was just like, this guy must have stopped at the wrong airport. What's he doing in the Arab League? Is he an Arab? Is Ukraine in somewhere, you know, somewhere hiding somewhere in the Middle East? No, Zelensky actually showed up. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Zelensky actually showed up. Here's a video of him. Jesus. He really does look confused. Like, damn, man, I'm at the wrong airport. So I thought that this must be a joke, because he basically came on board a French government plane. But the thing is, you can see that they're greeting him. The Saudi officials have rolled out the carpet and they're greeting him. So they obviously not only knew, but gave him permission and etc. Right? And because you understand that even if you're a diplomat or you know, the head of state, yes, you can, you know, simply go through most airports, but nevertheless, when you're visiting another country like this, and especially for something so important, there are always protocols to be followed. So my point here is that this guy didn't just randomly jump out the plane. They obviously knew he was coming, and they allowed him to come. And he not only arrived on the same day, but he actually spoke. He spoke to the Arab League. He addressed the Arab League. And so I kind of wanted to go through what Zelensky said, you know, and how, I mean, how ludicrous it is, right? Let's just begin. Let's just begin.
Annexations and plunder of their lands. We do not engage in annexations and plunder of other nations' resources, but we will never submit to any foreigners or colonizers. That's why we fight.
Wow. Wow. Do you hear that, everybody? Zelensky has endorsed the Palestinian cause. Now, do you see the hypocrisy here? Like, this guy, you know, he comes to lecture Arabs about colonialism. I mean, you know, just once again, let that sink in. There's a European coming to lecture Arabs about colonialism, and why it's important to fight it. Well, I'm glad you agree, Volodymyr. Why don't you pick up an AK-47 and follow me onto the battlefield? Let's go liberate Palestine. I mean, this guy, doesn't he read his own speeches? He can't hear himself.
And I'm sure all your nations will understand this, our main emotion. And I'm also sure all your nations will understand the main call I want to leave here in Jeddah, a noble call to all of you to help protect our people, including Ukrainian Muslim community. With me here, Ukrainian Muslim community. With me here is the Honorable Mustafa Dzhemilev, the leader of the Crimean Tatar people. One of
Wow, you see that? He came and brought his token Arab with him too. Wow, look at that. He's well prepared. So now suddenly he cares about Muslims. All right, I'll let him continue.
The indigenous peoples of Ukraine, whose home is Crimea, the center of Muslim culture in Ukraine. For centuries, the Crimean Tatar have been and should remain an integral and strong part of the Muslim community of the world. But Crimea was the first to suffer from the Russian occupation. And until now, most of those who are subjected to repression in the occupied Crimea are Muslims. We already have a positive experience with Saudi Arabia regarding the release of our people captured by Russia.
Right, so he's referring to last year when the Saudis, they basically got some Ukrainians freed, and yeah, it was a good piece, good act of diplomacy.
We can expand this experience, and even if there are people here at the summit who have a different view on the war.
MBS, what he just looked like? He looks like when you invited a friend over and now that friend is like really embarrassing you in front of everybody, he's like, just be quiet and make this short, please. I beg you, stop. Oh my God.
There are people here at the summit who have a different view on the war on our land, calling it a conflict. I'm sure that we can all be united in saving people from the cages of Russian prisons. Unfortunately,
hey, look, man, don't come here and start lecturing us about, cages and occupation and stuff. Why don't you talk about the Palestinian prisoners who are in the Israeli cages? They don't matter. Palestinians, they don't live under occupation. Their land hasn't been annexed. Syria's land hasn't been annexed. Like, read the room, man. Look at the room. Look where you are and to whom you're speaking. Man, this guy has no respect. He's really insulting Palestinians and Syrians and Arabs, trying to come and lecture them, like the Algerians. You're trying to give them, you're trying to give the Algerians lip and the Syrians lip and the Palestinians. You're going to talk to them about occupation?
there are some in the world and here among you who turn a blind eye.
Yeah. You're the one who turns a blind eye. You're the one who, accepts Israel. You went begging Israel for weapons, right? For their Iron Dome. He was even trying to, just like he's trying to use this token Muslim with him to kind of play on their heartstrings, like, oh, please, we have Muslims, help us. He was trying to do the same thing with the Israelis. He says, oh, I'm Jewish, and then he went so far, like he was starting, to anger the Israelis. Even they were outraged. Like, what, I think this is really. It's extremely insulting, man. It's extremely insulting. It would have been better to just say, look, please, I need your diplomatic help. That's all I'm asking. Nothing more. That's it. You don't have to come and say, oh, look, you're turning a blind eye. So look at this phrase again. Look at this sentence.
There are some in the world and here among you who turn a blind eye to those cages and illegal annexations. And I'm here so that everyone can take an honest look, no matter how hard the Russians try to influence.
I'm glad, Volodymyr, you could take an honest look, no matter how hard the Israelis try to influence you. I'm glad, mashallah, he supports the liberation of Palestine and the Golan Heights. Wow. I'm glad we see eye to eye. Here, let me show you this other part. Listen to what he says here, okay?
Also tied by the education of tens of thousands of Arab students in our universities every year. And I really. So now he says we have tens of thousands of Arab students and so on. Let me ask you something. Are these the same ones who were thrown off of trains when everyone was fleeing? They said, oh no, the blacks and the Arabs, you stay off the trains so the whites can go first. You remember these videos, right? I mean, these are some of the first images we saw from the Ukraine war. You had white Ukrainians kicking blacks, many of them students, and Arabs kicking them off of the trains so that they could leave first and flee. Did you care about them? Did you care about them then? Man. Here's another funny bit. You ready? Let's do some mathematics, okay? And I'm more than sure that none of you will agree to surrender a third of your country to the invaders. And
my friend, we see eye to eye once again. Forgive the CC provided by YouTube. It's not entirely correct. He's saying agree to surrender a third, right, of your country to the invaders. And it's very funny and what a coincidence that he mentions this exact figure, because the Americans have 1/3 of Syria, so everything east of the Euphrates River, the oil fields, go figure. the breadbasket region where everything that, he talks about Ukraine's wheat production and how grain production, how vital it is for the world. Guess what? Syria is self-sufficient. Syria doesn't need any of your grain. Syria is an exporter, just like Ukraine. Not at the same level, of course, but enough to feed Syrians. And now it's all gone. Why? Because your friends, the Americans, who are giving you all these weapons and who helped cause this war, they are occupying it. The invaders, as you call them, Zelensky, my friend. So I'm glad we see eye to eye once again. I mean, this is becoming ridiculous. You see how many times, like every minute, literally every minute, every other sentence, he says something that is so hypocritical that either he himself, his government, his country, or his allies do themselves and have been doing for a very long time, It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. They normalized the Israelis who invaded Syria, who invaded Lebanon, who invaded Palestine, took Palestine, took a chunk out of Syria, took a bit of Egypt, then gave it back, then took a bit of Lebanon and come back in when they please. And no, it's okay. He's cool with the Israelis. The Palestinians in those cages, the 1,000 Palestinian. Is it 1,000? Because I've lost count of how many prisoners are in which section of of administrative detention. And you've got, and I gave you all the figures the last time. You've got hundreds of Palestinian children in prisons, in Israeli prisons. Those are just the kids, right? What do you say anything about them?
Suffering by his new and Somalia, in Iraq and Afghanistan, everyone.
Yeah, why did they suffer, my friend? Why did they suffer? Why are you coming to talk to us? Why are you coming here? Zelensky, my friend, you got off at the wrong stop. You got off at the wrong stop. You're in the wrong airport. You're in the wrong country, in the wrong room with the wrong people. You should go to the White House, go to the EU, and lecture them about Iraq and about Afghanistan and about Somalia. What are you coming to us for? What are you coming to the Arab League for? What, Somalia did that to themselves, right? Iraq did that to themselves. It's your friends who did that. Why don't you go give them the same lip? Give them the same mouthful. Give them a taste of their own medicine. What are you coming to the victims of Western imperialism, to the victims of UK, US, EU foreign policy, of Israeli foreign policy, and then telling them about what your friends did to them? What's that got to do with them? Go give them some lip. Sorry, my friend Zelensky. I know you came here not asking for weapons for once. He didn't ask for weapons. I'm surprised. I thought he knew how many hundreds of billions the Saudis spent on weapons, and thought he might be able to take a little bite out of that, some donated F-16s. But no, surprisingly, he didn't ask for any weapons. But thank God we had a white European come lecture the Arab League about how bad it is to annex countries. I wonder why. How bad it is to invade other countries. I wonder who, right? It's the Arab leaders who need to be lectured, not his friends in Brussels and Washington and Whitehall. No, it's the Arab League, of course. They're the first people on the list. Where else would you go? When he was with Emmanuel Macron the other day, and when he was Rishi Sunak, the leaders of countries that have committed, some of the most barbaric acts in human history, who plundered the globe, literally plundered the French and British Empire, destroyed the globe. Man, the planet hasn't even recovered from imperialism. It hasn't even begun to recover. And he didn't say a word to them about illegal annexations and carving up other countries. And this is a European tradition. This is a European tradition. No, boy. Yes, you should have come to us. You should have rang us up first thing in the morning, old chap. Why are you talking to those bloody Arabs? Come to us next time, old boy. We'll fix you up. Oh, man. He's a real barrel of laughs. Thank you. I posted on Twitter when you know, a few hours ago when he arrived, and I couldn't wait to go live and give it to you. My goodness. So let's continue because it doesn't stop here. Let's talk about the F-16s. Let's talk about Ukraine and what I just mentioned with him going around and, you know, kissing their asses and begging them and pleading for F-16s. Just before I continue, thank you to the Crazy Puppet. The Crazy Puppet, it's good to see you again. Thanks for the donations. You said that Zelensky's English has improved a lot. He must be snorting bad stuff. If his Spanish improved, at least he would be snorting better stuff. He left Ukraine due to higher level of radiation after Russia bombed the storage of super safe and effective depleted uranium ammunition. Speaking of Russia bombing, I'm going to talk about the other big thing that happened. So anyway, let me do my thing, and thanks for the donations. I really appreciate it. So the F-16s, yes. Oh my God. By the way, I can't wait to get to the Poland-Russia subject. Man, you already know what happened. Okay. Zelensky. Man, this guy cracks me up. No wonder he's a comedian. I'd almost forgotten. I swear. Okay. So as you guys know, Ukraine, you know, they ask for one thing, then another. You give him an inch, then they take a mile. Zelensky's been doing that, right? So first he wanted tanks, and he got tanks. Well, before that, it was other non-lethal aid, and then it turned into very lethal aid. He got the HIMARS, then the tanks, and now he wants F-16s. And you remember the day that they were given the tanks by Germany, you know, he immediately said, okay, we want jets now. I mean, you know, he's not hiding any of it. So let me show you his latest tour, right? So before going to the Arab League and lecturing Arabs about European colonialism instead of his friends, well, Zelensky made a few pit stops across Europe, right? So he went to Italy, and then he went to France. Let me play you this clip of Emmanuel Macron talking about it, because just a few seconds ago he's saying, you know, on livre pas de. What did he say? Qu'est-ce qu'on livre pas? Des munitions. Nothing that can actually hurt Russians. And then the next sentence he's saying that actually, yeah, we gave them, you know, this tank and this and that. So this is like, he's like a lawyer speaking, right? No, I didn't give him any weapons. I just gave him the gun, but no bullets. And, you know, he got the bullets somewhere else. It's really funny, man. So, you know, basically France is now trading pilots. And even the guy interviewing him is confused, as am I, because the French don't use F-16s. They don't have any F-16s. So, I mean, what are you training them on? Like toasters? What are they going to operate? Tractors? Zeppelins? Because the French, you know, they have the Mirage and the Rafale, and they are obviously very European, but they kind of hate Britain and the US, and they have a complex about it because, you know, no one speaks French anymore as the diplomatic language and so on, and scientific language, and you know, lingua franca. And so they have a complex about that they have to kind of toe their own line, and they build their own jets, right? Among other things. And they have sold a bit, but nowhere near as successful as the F-16. I mean, it's not even comparable. You know, I'll get into more detail about the F-16 in a moment, but I'd also like to know what they're being trained on. Are the Americans going to come to France and train them there? I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. And you have to remember that even if they're trained, even if they do get the jets, they still require training. I mean, it takes around a year and a half, you know? So, again, this is not some joke. Here is Zelensky with Rishi Sunak, our prime minister in Britain.
We are going to be a key part of the coalition of countries that provides that support to Vladimir and Ukraine. Now, it is not a straightforward thing, as Vladimir and I have been discussing, to build up that fighter combat aircraft capability. It's not just the provision of planes, it's also the training of pilots and all the logistics that go alongside that. Now, the UK can play a big part of that. One thing we will be doing, starting actually relatively soon is training of Ukrainian pilots.
Today we spoke about the jets, very important topic for us because we can't control the sky, you know it. We want to create this jets coalition, and I'm very positive with it. We spoke about it, and I see that in the closest time you will hear some, I think, very important decisions, but we have to work a little bit more on it.
They had a cup of tea and then decided on, how to make peace with more weapons. So the UK and the Netherlands, we formed the jet fighter coalition, as it's being called, to help Ukraine procure F-16. So basically, we want to pressure other countries, and of course, it has to include the US because they are the exporter. So we want to pressure the US and other countries into giving Ukraine weapons we don't have and to train them on jets that we don't fly. To my knowledge, as correct me if I'm wrong, Britain has no F-16s. They're certainly not in use. You might find a few in some museums. And we have the Eurofighter, the Typhoon. England has a very proud tradition of building excellent, not just fighter jets, but just aircraft in general. World War II, the Tempest, the Spitfire, the Halifax. Well, that's not necessarily a fighter, but my point here is that the Typhoon, the Eurofighter Typhoon, even though it's a joint project, we're not talking about training them on Typhoons. He doesn't mention that. So I'm confused. Are Americans going to come to England and train the French on F-16s there? How does this work exactly? So the F-16, right? The Falcon. You have a lot of legendary American fighters, F-14 Tomcat, that's one that you see in Top Gun and the old one, and, the F-18, the Hornet, and so on and so on. The Americans built excellent planes as well. Now, the F-16, I think around 16% of all jet aircraft on the planet are F-16s, right? So that's a large number for one type of aircraft. And keep in mind, this is it's a fourth generation fighter, so the latest. And even though it was built in the 1970s, we're talking 50 years old. They were still going to be using these things until 2040 at least, right? They have a huge, immensely huge shelf life, and they basically extended the hull's lifespan from, I think it's 8,000 to 12,000 hours, and along the years they've made lots of modifications and improvements for the F-16. So my point is that even though it's quite old, it's extremely effective. So this is good for air-to-air combat, for dogfights, and surface air to ground bombing. So basically hitting targets on the ground, taking out targets on the ground, and also shooting down other jets. Now the thing is that even though the F-16 is really good at these things, what does Zelensky think they're going to do? Are they going to have dogfights with Russian planes? This makes no sense, because the cheaper and the smarter thing to do would be to train the Ukrainians to fly the same goddamn planes that they already fly, meaning Soviet and Russian era. So Soviet era and Russian jets, right? I mean, you have to keep in mind, man, the Ukrainian pilots have always been trained on that equipment because they were part of the Soviet Union. So they have all this crap lying around, and even before, it's just they kept the same system. Okay, they don't have. Well, they didn't have all of this weaponry until 2014 and until now. It's when it started coming in, and it was certainly not anything to do with aerial combat or air to ground bombing. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I don't know what's going on here, man. It's like he thinks he's in a candy store and he can just write up a wish list and, you know, just buy everything because he sees it. It doesn't work that way, man. Not to mention, even though the F-16 compared to other fighters is much cheaper to produce, when we say cheap in military terms, I mean it's astronomically expensive, right? Obviously, because they want to make money off of these things, right? And I'm talking about Lockheed Martin, about Raytheon, about Boeing, you know, whatever class of aircraft and whatever type of ordnance and payload used. These guys want to make money. And so that's you know, American tax dollars that are taken out of your pockets and then handed over to General Dynamics or to Boeing or to Raytheon. That's aid to Ukraine. Yeah, maybe it's free for Ukraine, but you paid for it. You get what I'm saying? So even if this were to go ahead, dude, think of the cost of these things. I know that they're, as I said, relatively cheap compared to other jets and fighters. That still doesn't make them cheap for the taxpayer or for anyone. It's these things are astronomically expensive. Jesus Christ. Germany, you know, Germany used to have an air force once. We destroyed it. It was called the Luftwaffe. No, but jokes aside, Germany has approved 2.7 billion euros in military aid to Ukraine, the biggest package yet since Russia's invasion, and pledged further support for Kiev as long as necessary. So because Germany are still, you know, they're kind of pussyfooting around the idea of giving them jets, and I'm sure they'll come to at one point, you know, Scholz or Pretorius will suddenly get up and say, no, we're going to do it. Just like they did with the tanks, you know, 1 minute it's no, and the next second it's yes. Let's give them the tanks. They asked for what? Just give it to them. Yes. Okay, I've changed my mind since 3 days ago. This package includes 30 Leopard 1 tanks. So keep in mind that's the previous generation, not the Leopard 2, but nevertheless they're tanks. You know, again, compared to, you know, when you pit them against Russian ones, they don't tend to do very well, as history would indicate. But okay, so 30 Leopard 1 tanks, 15 Gepard anti-aircraft tanks, over 200 reconnaissance drones, and 4 Iris-T anti-aircraft systems. And of course, you know, that's just the statement from the Ministry of Defense. I'm sure there's lots of other goodies that they didn't tell us about in there. So, you know, my point here is that this is outrageous. I mean, the smart thing to do for Ukraine would be to get or procure more Soviet era or Russian jets, whether it's from other, you know, former Soviet satellite states like Poland, who, you know, despise the crap out of Russia, as we'll get to in a moment, or you know, look, man, a lot of these countries have these things lying around. And I'd be surprised if they hadn't already given most of them to the Ukrainians, right? Whether in secret or otherwise. But my point here is just that in Zelensky's, you know, a feverish attempt to transition to a NATO armed military, I mean, it's like he doesn't grasp that these things are very, very costly, very difficult to maintain. You need the logistical supply line just to maintain the goddamn things. You need the crew members who can fly them, those who can repair them, you know, and this applies for tanks as well, by the way. But tanks, you know, you can relatively, compared to a jet, train crews much faster. I think it would be easier to take a person off of the street who is not a pilot and teach them how to fly the goddamn thing. Or okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration. Let's say just somebody who flies civilian aircraft. It will be easier to teach them to fly an F-16 than to transition someone whose muscle memory, whose brain, whose eyes, whose reflexes, whose entire goddamn body has been trained to operate Russian weapons into using an F-16. It's like they have to unlearn most of what they know and then reprogram. It's very difficult, man. That must be fucking excruciating and such a pain in the ass. You're much better off just giving them Russian stuff. And also, why don't you pay for it yourselves? Zelensky. You pay for the goddamn things. I don't want to pay for your shit. Sorry, I just don't. And I think most people in the West don't want to pay for your shit. If they understood, and I think everyone's starting to understand where this thing is going, that all of the tax dollars and tax pounds and tax euros that people pay are going into the coffers and the bank accounts of Raytheon and General Dynamics and BAE Systems. No one wants that. We're sick of it. And food has become expensive. Gas is expensive. Everything is expensive. Just fucking sit down and speak with Putin and end this damn thing. You don't need F-16s. You need good diplomats. You need people who know how to negotiate. You need people to back you and put you on the right course towards diplomacy, not more war. What's the war got accomplished? And I say this to both Russia and Ukraine. What has been accomplished? Nothing. And to NATO, of course. When we say Ukraine, it's really NATO. Ukraine didn't start this war. It's NATO who provoked it. They poked the Russians. The Russians, I think they could have done things differently. They could have, even though it's difficult and they're backed into a corner. Maybe sometimes it's worth pushing a bit more, and you have cooler heads prevailing. This whole situation needs to be fixed with those two guys sitting down and negotiating. That's it. End of story. Yeah, the F-16s are not going to help you. The only people that they help are the weapons manufacturers and the military-industrial complex. Those people don't need help. They need goddamn capital punishment. Oh, man. Here, let's talk about Russia and then Poland, okay? This thing is obscene. By the way, if you just joined in, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from, what city, what country, what county, what planet, what galaxy. Let me know in the comments. And thank you for the donations again to the Crazy Puppet. Crazy Puppet said, Russia deploying T-14 tanks to the conflict zone for combat baptism. Currently, they are in the rear. They are designed as commander unit for T-90, just like in Syria. Russia is testing new hardware in combat. Is there any more awesome clips from Angel Claudia? Claudia is definitely an angel. Please do shout her out. And she, I think if you haven't been here for a while, Crazy Puppet, if I'm not mistaken, so you're gonna see the new crab dance, and it's gonna, your stomach is gonna, your belly's gonna ache from laughter. We've got people tuning in from Essen in Germany, west of Ireland, from Ireland, Finland, Iran, Bangkok, Tatooine in the Outer Rim, from Russia, Australia, Serbia, Iran, Ghana, Chicago, Moscow, California, Los Angeles, Berlin, Greece, Vienna, Strasbourg, Copenhagen, apartheid USA, Philippines, Virginia. I love it. I love it. Shout out to all of you guys and bless you for tuning in. And we are also watching, streaming on Rockfin and Rumble. So this is the first time I'm streaming on Rumble. And I'll get Odyssey working next time. So we've got all of them going. Just keep that in mind when you want to watch. So let me get to Russia and Poland, because this thing is goddamn hilarious. I'm sorry, it just is. It's so petty. It's the most petty thing I've ever seen. Okay, here we go. Man, you're gonna laugh, really. So I have an update for you on the most petty diplomatic fight that I've ever seen. I mean, this is between Poland and Russia, and it's just so it's so weird and funny. So basically, just to give you the timeline, in 2022, March 2022, Poland blocked the bank accounts of the Russian embassy in Warsaw. Okay, so in the Polish capital. And then a few days later, the Russians did the same thing. They blocked Poland's embassy account in Moscow. Then 1 year later, so in April of this year, I made a video about it, right? Poland emptied the accounts of the Russian embassy in Warsaw. So they had blocked them, you know, so they can't pay for anything and can't use them and can't withdraw. And just now, then they had, you know, a few weeks ago, just completely taken the money, like just emptied it, millions of euros. Then a few days later, this is the latest news. Poland closed a Russian embassy school in Warsaw. Okay, so this is from Al Jazeera. So Russia slams Polish seizure of embassy school in Warsaw, right? So Russia said it will respond harshly and etc. etc. And you know, I mean, I think let me read this to you, give you my thought. I really just want to get to the meat of it. The Polish Foreign Ministry said to Reuters that the building housing the embassy school belonged to the Polish state. The Russian Foreign Ministry said that the Polish authorities burst into the embassy school grounds with the aim of seizing it. It said Poland's hostile actions are a blatant violation of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961 and an encroachment on Russian diplomatic property. Sorry, but I have to agree with the Russians here. I mean, it's not the Russians, it's just the law. It's the Vienna Convention. You know, this is the Cold War. This is 1961. And to avoid having diplomats, Russian diplomats in the US or US diplomats in Russia, just randomly arrested and, you know, accused of espionage. Most of them are spies, though. You know, to avoid this kind of stuff, they came up with the Vienna Convention. And, you know, one of the convention's, you know, perks, or should we say, you know, defenses that are given to diplomats is diplomatic immunity. So, for example, you know, you can't arrest a diplomat unless they're you know, unless they have a machine gun in their hands and they're murdering people. Yes, obviously you can arrest them and stop them in such an extreme case, but you can't just randomly take them in for whatever, because it's harassment, right? So this includes the property and the you know, the premises of the diplomatic missions. So, you know, Warsaw, when I say Warsaw, I mean the Polish government, taking the embassy's accounts in the first place last year. It's very obvious that they're trying to stop the Russians from being able to pay for the building or pay for their expenses, and therefore making their embassy and mission inoperable, limiting it. Because yeah, there are expenses, the electricity, you know, the wages, the you know, the food, everything, obviously, and so that was already a violation of the Vienna Convention, and now, especially physically, with the actual property being taken, the fact that it was an embassy school, I mean, it's you know, a school or not, if it belongs to the embassy, and there are diplomats in there, you can't just burst in and take it and saying, oh, it belongs to the Polish state. So they basically ran it through a bunch of, like, a kangaroo court case in Warsaw, and you know, basically the state gave itself the rights to the property, to the land, and then took the thing back. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You know, you can't do that, and it's you know, what's next? Are they going to burst into the embassy and seize that? It's outrageous. And so now the Russians have responded by also taking the funds of the Polish embassy account. I mean, this is so petty. Just give each other the money back, unblock the accounts, and leave each other's embassies alone. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you guys? This is so pathetic. And the funny thing is that the Polish, you know, they expelled 45 Russian diplomats last year. Which was another, you know, I mean, it's their right, you know. Poland, in this case, is the host country. They are under no obligation to have an embassy, or I mean, diplomatic ties with you, and therefore an embassy, and to give, you know, credentials to every diplomat. They at any time can withdraw the credentials and kick a diplomat out, even the ambassador, right? But if you're going to take the embassy money and the embassy grounds, you have to sever ties first. You can't just, like,
take this for now, and then, empty this account for now, and this and that. Now, this is ridiculous. This is exactly what the Vienna Convention was designed to prevent. And I think both of them are violating it. It's very clear. Just because Poland started, it doesn't mean that Russia is also, Russia has the right to reciprocate. It does not. It does not. The Russians are violating the Vienna Convention by behaving like Poland, or in this case, or Poland's government. You can't pick and choose and cherry pick. That thing. That thing survived the Cold War. It has to survive this one because there's enough crap going on without this petty stuff. It's truly petty and also kind of hilarious. I'm really curious to see what they're going to confiscate next. Maybe they'll steal the ambassador's bicycle, or his daughter's homework, or some crap. Come on, guys. Cut it out. Okay, so thank you, Crazy Puppet. Crazy Puppet says the issue comes from the fact that the building was built by Russia to educate children of embassy staff. Building was not included in initial buildings that were designated as Russian embassy, so the Poles think they are smart. I mean, I'm pretty sure, actually, I'm certain under the Vienna Convention, it doesn't, you don't have to specifically own the building. There are many embassies who were given from one, basically they belonged to one diplomatic mission from country A, and then they were given to the diplomatic mission of country B, and so on. They don't, as you said, they're being smart. They don't necessarily have to own the building. If it constitutes harassment of embassy staff and their families and so on, it's not very cool. I will say this though, the Russians, in their latest move on May 12th, seizing the funds of the Polish embassy, that's definitely worse than the Polish government taking the embassy school, because the funds are, well, I mean, really the bedrock of the whole mission, because if you don't have any money there, how the hell do you run the whole thing? You can't pay for anything. At one point the money's going to run out. You can't pay for the building, and then they'll take it from you, I suppose. Maybe that's part of the salami tactic. But yeah, it's I mean, I felt like this is obvious, but Poland really doesn't like Russia. When I say that, I mean specifically this Polish government. They are very, very anti-Russia. They fucking hate Russia, and they don't hide it. They make no they make no mystery of it. But yeah, so one of you saying it's tit for tat. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Let me talk to you about give me a sec to just get rid of this. Okay, so there's something here that I have not seen before, and I specifically did not watch it, so you can get my live reaction to this what I've been told is a monstrosity, and I tried to stop people from giving me any details, but here we go. Okay, just give me 1 sec to set it up, and I think we should be good to go now. Okay, so I have not seen this video. Okay, this is my live reaction. Live reaction to it. Let's go.
Это та жизнь, о которой я мечтал.
Hold on a second. I don't speak Russian. Where's the video? There we go. Okay, here are some English subtitles.
Это та жизнь, о которой я мечтал. Тот путь, который я себе выбрал. Почему жизни одних людей ценятся больше, чем жизни других? И кто это решает? Быть героем – это значит выстоять. Но выстоять – это ведь не значит терпеть напрасно. Лучший способ удержать заключенного от побега – сделать так, чтобы он никогда не узнал, что находится в тюрьме. мы легко поддаемся лжи.
Why did they film the Russian ambassador's car? What is this?
Но мы ведь знаем, какова наша действительность. Реальность, в которой мы живем, и реальность, о которой мы говорим шепотом. Я не верю в революцию. Истинная жизнь происходит там, где совершаются незаметные изменения в душах людей. Незаметные для моей страны, но не для меня. Я буду жить истинной жизнью. Это моя Россия. Это всегда будет моя Россия. Я выстою.
Oh my god, did you see what it said on the phone? It said contact the CIA. They have a fucking form on there. Oh my god. Oh no, I understand what this is. Is this a recruitment video? Jesus Christ.
Всегда будет моя Россия.
This is my Russia. Contact the CIA now.
Я выстою. Моя семья выстоит.
Is that a threat? Is that a threat? Contact the CIA and your family will live in dignity and happiness. Okay, bro? It's like that's a threat. I feel threatened by this. And what is this?
Жить достойно, благодаря моим действиям.
Bro, I know that feeling, you know, when people around you don't hear the truth. I know this feeling, you know, it's that's life in the West, you know, it's, what can I say, man? You know, you do your job as a journalist, you question the government, and that's great when you're in Russia. But, you know, if you're from England, if you're an American and you question your government and you seek the truth, well, you know, they make up nasty stories about you or put you in prison or try to smear you and call you Putin this and a Putin that. And yeah, I know this feeling when people around you don't want to hear the truth. It's like you know, the whole West is it's an episode of the Twilight Zone, really. What does it mean? A helpless image? What? Like this fucking thing coming out of the shadows slowly, like, contact us or else. God, that was so cringy. That was really cringy. And I like how they portray the entire video is like this stereotypical, you know, boring representation of the Soviet Union. Like, it's just some fucking damp, cold, grim, dark place where it's always cold and miserable. But, you know, if you contact the CIA, then you can have the car of the Russian ambassador. What is this? Look, those had the flags on them, right? Look, the flags were on there. That's an ambassador's car. Which ambassador? I have no clue. But when you know, those are the only ones that can park anywhere they like. What is this, man? It's like I'm watching a movie about, you know, the DDR or something. Jesus Christ. You know, for an intelligence agency, their marketing is really shit. I prefer when the CIA come on MSNBC and speak to me directly, so I know they're bullshitting me, you know? I mean, this is targeted at Russians, which I'm not. But, you know, if I were, I mean, I'd probably consider this a threat. Like, why is my child in hospital? And then I'm told to contact the CIA. This is so weird, man. This is really weird. And the music is horrendous. It's like a typical, you know, corporate music, corporate background music that you just want to switch off after 5 seconds. I knew I shouldn't have watched this crap. People told me that it's going to be bad and all this stuff. I knew I shouldn't have watched it. Why do I do this to myself? This is a form of CIA torture. I feel like my mind has been waterboarded with shit. This is actual torture right now. And I apologize to the viewers. Jesus Christ. I mean, look, guys, let's look at this. Enough jokes. Do you think that this appeals to Russians? Honestly. Like, do you think someone watches this and says, yeah, I really, I relate to these mundane sentences, these weird abstract sentences, but being a hero is about endurance. What does that mean? Endurance of what? The reality in which we live and speak of whispers. What? This is like poetry by a 12-year-old. This is absolute garbage. This is absolute garbage. Absolute garbage. Honestly, look, if any of you speak Russian, you have to tell me in the comments whether, the meaning or the sentences are being lost in translation. I have a very strong feeling that they're not. I think this is a very, very accurate translation. Not word for word, not literal, but idiomatic. So the meaning is, is maintained, which is the best form of translation. Please tell me that I'm not misreading the translation. I'm pretty sure I'm not. I mean, just from the images, it's like cringe after cringe after cringe. Get yourself some better marketing. You really suck. You really suck at this. You're not intelligent at all. The Central Ass Agency. Next one. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, guy, I feel like I'm working in Amazon. I get no piss break with you guys. If I leave the chair, like 100 viewers leave the live stream all of a sudden. Jesus, man. All right. So, Valichkne in the comments is saying it's very accurate. Somebody else, I apologize. I can't read Cyrillic, so forgive me. But they're also saying that nope, it's pretty accurate. Yeah. Chifax says, I speak Russian. The translation is accurate. Well, guys, look, you're Russian, right? So you're the ones being targeted by this CIA campaign ad. Do you feel like you're in the mood to contact Mike Pompeo and his friends at the CIA, or not so much? After watching this, what do you think? I'm waiting for the J-Dose says go pee if you need. No, I was joking. I actually just wanted to get more coffee. I'm good. Yilmaz says yes, Russian trader. I'm watching. Valishkini says never in my life. So apparently we have live viewer feedback from Russians, and none of you feel that you're in the mood to speak to the CIA after watching this. Well, look, guys, it's a unanimous no. CIA, you failed. You failed once again. Crazy Puppet is saying I would watch it again if you want to know the translation is accurate, but I don't want to see it again. Neither do I. Let us close this tab and throw it into the dustbin of history and never bring it up again. Okay, we collectively agree on this. Very good. Unanimous decision. The ayes have it. Do the ayes have it? Now you guys all say aye as I prepare the next one. We got something good. LB says burn it, Richie. Burn it. Peter says let's see a KGB recruitment ad. There must be some ad somewhere. I'd actually like to see one. Now it's the FSB, but look, the ayes have it. It's a unanimous eye. Okay, next one. So I got a couple of gems here. Don't go anywhere, guys. I'll be right back. 1 minute, and we'll continue with the news. All right.
Sweden wanted to join NATO. They broke with their decades-long neutral stance. Turkey was one of the only countries, I think, along with Hungary, that was saying we're not going to let you in because you need to have consensus, right? You need all the members in NATO to say, okay, you can join. Their bid has kind of been in limbo because Turkey wanted to, extract several concessions. It was very clear that they really want to join NATO in Sweden, and they were doing everything they could to appease the Turks. And then this moron comes in front of the Turkish embassy and burns the Quran. I understand that in their point of view, this is freedom of expression, and you know, you're in Sweden, you can do whatever you like. But you have to remember that if you're trying to get Turkey support, maybe wait until after you've gotten it. I mean, this is just dumb from you know, a diplomatic level. They're doing everything to appease Turkey, and then because of one idiot, they let this go to waste. The Germans and the Americans have decided that it would be a good idea to send Ukraine tanks. You know, German tanks against the Russian. Man, I'm perplexed by this. You know, what do they think is going to happen? Because even if you can train the crews, the Ukrainian crews who are used to Soviet tanks, to operate British tanks, and then you got to train them to operate German tanks, and then you got to train them to operate American tanks, and that's if they can even maintain the logistical supply line to work with these tanks, to keep them running. What kind of door are you opening now for the Russians to do? I mean, this is very clearly escalation. While Germany and the US are saying, yeah, we're going to give Ukraine tanks, the doomsday clock has been moved to 90 seconds to midnight. So this is basically, it's a measurement of how close we are to the end of the world, to the apocalypse, to annihilating the planet with nuclear weapons, right? And this is the closest it's ever been to midnight, okay? Midnight representing the end. Ukraine's most senior military commander has said that his forces need about 300 Western tanks. Over the last year, NATO allies in Eastern Europe supplied Ukraine with Soviet-era and Russian-made tanks that have been ground down or destroyed in constant fighting. Soviet-era and Russian-made tanks. Now, Ukraine, having been a Soviet satellite state and part of the Soviet Union, it was part of Russia, you know, all of its military personnel being trained on Russian tanks. What do you think they're going to do with American tanks or German tanks, which they are not trained to operate? The Ukrainians know how to operate Russian tanks. That's all they know how to operate. The Ukrainians only use Soviet stuff, right? Until the last couple of years and until now. You know, this is the first major influx of NATO weapons. And again, NATO's been training Ukrainian forces, but Challenger tanks, this is brand new. If they can't even use the tanks that they're trained to use, what makes you so confident they're going to know how to use a Leopard 2 or an M1A2 or a Challenger 2? Man, people train on those things for fucking months and years. And we're back. We're back, baby. Okay, so let's talk about something very important, regarding Ukraine and Russia. I mean, Jesus, is there anything we haven't touched on? Here. Okay, so So 6 African countries have announced a peace initiative. Basically, Ramaphosa, the South African president, spoke on the phone with Zelensky and then with Putin. And basically, both sides, the Ukrainians and Russians, agreed to meet this delegation of 6 African countries so they can find a solution to end the war. The 6 countries are Senegal, Uganda, Egypt, Republic of Congo, Zambia, and South Africa. Let me play you the clip of Ramaphosa, the South African president.
At the spotlight, particularly the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
We're aiming that with the preparations that will get underway, this peace mission will contribute to the various other missions that are underway to bring a solution to that conflict. My discussions with the 2 leaders demonstrated that they are both ready to receive the African leaders and to have a discussion on how this conflict can be brought to an end. Whether that will succeed or not is going to depend on the discussions that will be held.
Singapore says it was.
So, you know, obviously from the get-go, this is a very noble and honorable and smart and a constructive initiative. You know, instead of sending weapons and, you know, bombing for peace, the Africans, these 6 African nations are actually doing something constructive, and it's good to hear that. Both presidents, Ukrainian and Russian, will meet them. I just wanted to say something because they're giving. It's very important that South Africa is leading this. I'll tell you why. Because South Africa, number one, is a BRICS country, right? So when we say BRICS, we mean Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. These are the five, the five economies, major economies that are bursting on the scene, right? It was first BRIC, and then actually South Africa joined, was the latest to join, and many other countries want to join now because they see how successful it is. And these countries that actually produce things, the BRICS, are taking back, not only the plundering, making up for all of the money lost in colonial wars against them and plundering, because South Africa was British and Dutch colony, and China had the Opium Wars. Britain waged Opium Wars against them, and so on and so on. And India, I mean, obviously, Britain, we colonized that for 200 years. So these countries that actually produce things, are taking back the world economy, and they're going to work on their own currency or bilateral currencies between each other. And South Africa leading this is so important because it shows that South Africa is not only a powerhouse on the economic level, but also now a peacemaker and powerhouse on the on the international stage, on a diplomatic level, right? That they actually matter, that they're, taking the initiative, and they are like China, another BRICS country, and like Russia. So when I say China got Iran and Saudi Arabia to make peace. Then Russia came in, did the same thing in the Middle East. So, after Iran and Saudi Arabia, you had, Syria and Saudi Arabia and Yemen and Saudi Arabia and so on. So you had all of these BRICS countries playing a role recently on the diplomatic level to actually, instead of wage war, to sue for peace, to do something constructive. And now South Africa is also taking the reins, and they are giving South Africa a lot of heat. Okay, so recently the U.S. ambassador to South Africa, he starts accusing the South African government of arming Russia, right? In the conflict with, the war in Ukraine. And so they say that this ship that docked at the Simontown port back in December was actually loading weapons for Russia. And let me just show you the clip where he accuses, where he makes this allegation a few days ago, okay? Take a listen.
The arming of Russia by South Africa with the vessel that landed in Simonstown is fundamentally unacceptable. We are confident that weapons were loaded onto that vessel, and I would bet my life on the accuracy of that assertion.
You hear that? He would bet his life. That's the U.S. ambassador saying he would bet his life that South Africa, where he's, where he's carrying out his diplomatic mission, the host country where he is a guest, is arming Russia. So the next day, the South African Foreign Ministry summoned him for what is known as a démarche, which means they dressed him down. They gave him lip. They set him straight. And it was so embarrassing. Look what happened. This is a post on Twitter showing a photograph of the South African foreign minister giving him such a stern look, like she wants to murder him or something. Okay, so this is the day after he made that video, right? And look at the long tweet. He said, "We conveyed our displeasure with his conduct, and he admitted that he crossed the line and apologized unreservedly." Unreservedly. So he went from, "I would bet my life that South Africa is arming Russia," to, "I apologize unreservedly." Oh, wow, man. Here he is the next day. This is his tweet. He says, "I was grateful for the opportunity to speak with Foreign Minister Dore this evening and correct any misimpressions left by my public remarks. In our conversation, I reaffirmed the strong partnership between our countries and an important agenda our presidents have given us." Man, that picture is so... That should be a meme. That should be a meme, man. Look how she wants to murder him. He looks like her son, right? She's giving him a proper démarche, you know. She's just dressing him down. Game over. Oh man, he really did cross the line. You can't, you're a guest in the country. At any second, she can literally tear up his credentials and say, "Get out, leave the country." See, you can have diplomatic immunity, but you can't piss off the host country. There are limits. I mean, Jesus Christ, you should see the American ambassadors in other countries. They are so ill-mannered and rude. They behave like goddamn hoodlums. You got the U.S. ambassador to Russia, or the U.S. ambassador to Syria, the U.S. ambassador to Lebanon, all helping people organize protests against the government that has given them their credentials as diplomats. Jesus Christ. It's like, you know, you're invited to stay over at a friend's house, and that friend is trying to get people in the neighborhood to come beat your ass. I mean, the level of disrespect. You know, I know I've told you many times, you know, embassies are basically spy stations. They are. They of course, they serve many functions of the foreign ministry, but they're spy stations. At least try and hide it. I know, you know, they're going to do this kind of stuff, but try and hide it, man. Have some respect. It's okay to tell people to get the protest going, but do it discreetly, please. They don't even have the basic common decency. I'm really happy to see the South African Foreign Ministry dress him down. U.S. diplomats, U.S. ambassadors, you're not above the law, especially in the countries that you're serving, and carrying out your mission in. And you shouldn't go testing the Vienna Convention. Don't go testing your host's patience. Don't do this. Don't do this, because, you know, South Africa, you know, they kicked the white colonizers' butts. They took back the country. ANC, you know, Ramaphosa helped write the constitution. He was part of, he was, if I remember correctly, he was the second to nominate Nelson Mandela to the presidency. It's a very important video. You know, very historic video, and the fact that they're accusing him after having taken back the country of arming Russia, it's an attempt to kind of chip away at their credibility, you know, lash out at them on the international stage, make them look weak, make them look guilty, you know, because they're a BRICS country, because South Africa is very clear, like, we're done with this Western shit, you know, like China, like Russia, they want a multipolar world. They're done with Western hegemony. Look what they did to the continent. Here's the leader of the opposition in South Africa accusing, you know, the president of arming the Russians. So take a look.
Mr. President, it's not only gold and cigarettes that are being smuggled. A little while ago, the United States government announced that weapons, ammunition, and materials of war were loaded onto the sanctioned Russian ship, the Lady R, when she docked at your government's naval base in Sam.
You know, he tells him afterwards when he responds, like, why are you saying your government's base? It's a base, it's a naval base that belongs, you know, it's a dock that belongs to the people of South Africa, not to the government. Like, it's so weird, you know.
Town last December. This suggests that the ANC government is actively arming Russian soldiers and
Order,
mercenaries
honorable members,
who are
please.
murdering and maiming innocent people, not
What
only
the hell,
in
man?
Ukraine, but also across the African continent.
Oh, yeah, you care so much about the African continent.
It's been half
Oh,
a
man.
year now since the scandal of the Lady R docking in Simonstown broke. And I find it inconceivable that a president worth his salt would not have been briefed on the situation by now. Mr. President, can you confirm whether weapons of war were loaded on board that Russian ship before she left Simonstown? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Whilst Mr. Steenhuisen puffs off
So he makes the same point, and he has the same reaction about this. Your government's Simontown port.
Simonstown, and regard installations as important as we are all aware of the news that we all became aware of the Lady R, and that whole matter,
Lady R is the name
Honorable
of the ship.
Steenhuisen, is being looked into. It's being, no, it isn't. It's being looked into, and whilst the process continues, I want you to allow that process to continue to reach its fruition. I know that you are so keen. You are so keen and you are so interested in knowing exactly what happened. The matter, yes, the matter is being looked into, and in time we'll be able to speak about it. Yes, in time we'll talk about it. So, Honorable Speaker, as you correctly said, this matter best be left where it is. And
I honestly, I find this response a bit, obviously very vague. But let me just contrast this with how the American was treated, because it's perfectly normal for a leader of the opposition to ask, it's like in the UK we have prime minister's questions, right? So here they're doing the same thing, and it's perfectly legitimate. But for an American ambassador or any other ambassador, a foreigner who is a guest in the country, to start saying shit like this, about, talking crap about their host, you crossed the red line. And I'm really happy the South African Foreign Ministry put their foot down and also put the American ambassador back in his place and back in line, because you don't get away with crap like that. You can, once you're back in America, you can say what you like, but if you're gonna say things like this, you have to at least be, no pun intended, diplomatic about it, right? And I find, again, the pivot, like, I would bet my life on it to I apologized unreservedly. Man, again, I reiterate my previous comments. This should be a meme format. Look at the dressing down she gave him. Oh my God. There's a reason this is called a démarche. Because when you fucked up and you get summoned the next day by the foreign ministry, you know you fucked up. Oh, and one more thing I want to say before. When I was talking about the BRICS countries, I mean, look at the diplomacy that they've engaged in. China, in regards to Iran and Saudi Arabia, got them talking and got them to, got their rapprochement, set their rapprochement in motion. So China helping Saudi Arabia and Iran hash things out. Then Russia helping along with Iran to make to try and make peace between Turkey and Syria. So that's, again, another effort that Russia's involved in, and Iran, right? Iran, who also wants to join BRICS. Russia and China already members, right? Founding members. And now South Africa with the peace initiative in Ukraine, trying to forge peace, but trying to make peace between Ukraine and Russia. You see how these BRICS countries, not only on an economic level, are they surpassing the West, but they're also surpassing them, morally, ethically, in their behavior and on the international stage. And they're really making a fool of the West because, our foreign policy is dropping bombs on other people and killing them and stealing their resources and maiming them. And it's been like that for hundreds of years. They have a completely different approach to foreign policy. They actually get things done and they don't kill people in the process. Maybe we should be more like South Africa and China and Russia in our foreign policy and less like, neo-colonial monsters. Let me show you something to do with Libya and it's here. So the former French president Nicolas Sarkozy, he was in court the other day, and they basically handed him, or rather confirmed, a 2021 High Court decision to give him 3 years of prison, 2 of them basically, out the window, and he only really spends 1 year in prison at home with an ankle bracelet. And this is from one of 3 corruption cases, which are very important, not because I'm, a fangirl of Nicolas Sarkozy. Quite on the contrary, it's in regards to Libya. Let me show you what's going on. So here, the first case, basically, Sarkozy and his lawyer Herzog had, a secret telephone line taken out, and the other 2 official lines that Sarkozy had were bugged by investigators. Okay, so Nicolas Sarkozy and Thierry Herzog had formed a quote-unquote corruption pact with a judge, right, with Gilbert Azibert, to obtain and share information about a legal investigation. So they were basically trying to corrupt a judge and spy on this investigation. And the court found him guilty in 2021, and now the other day they just confirmed the sentence. That's case number 1. Let me show you case number 2 and 3. So the second case is called the Bismuth case, because it's basically the one I just told you about is called Paul Bismuth, right? So that's the nickname for it, because it's the fake name that Nicolas Sarkozy used to register the third phone line, Paul Bismuth. Now, the second case is the Bimalion case, and he got 1 year in prison in the lower court, and he's going to appeal that this year in November, okay? So, basically, what he did is he spent nearly double the legal limit on his lavish 2012 re-election campaign, and he used false billing from a public relations firm under that name. And now we get to the third one, which is the one I wanted to highlight and talk about. So in 2007, when Nicolas Sarkozy ran for president in France, he went to Colonel Gaddafi, to Libya's leader, and he asked him for money several times, and he gave him that money. Gaddafi gave him that money. So this case here, basically, financial crimes prosecutors are saying that Sarkozy and 12 others should face trial over allegations they sought millions of euros in financing from the regime, right, of then Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi for the ultimately victorious campaign. Sarkozy is accused of corruption, illegal campaign financing, and concealing the embezzlement of public funds. So I find this disgusting, because their problem with Sarkozy is not that he got and received money from Gaddafi, forgive me, let me start again. Their problem is that he received Libyan money, but they have no problem with the fact that he stabbed Gaddafi in the back, he stabbed the people of Libya in the back, He went and bombed and destroyed Libya in 2012, along with NATO. They have no problem with this, right? The war crimes that they committed in Libya. Look at the state of Libya. Libya still hasn't even begun to recover. Most people in Libya, just like most people in Iraq and most people in Syria, wish they could go back to 20 years ago. Not because it was nice or particularly perfect, but because it was so much better than how it is now and how it is currently. That just to again put that in perspective, and put that in context. The situation in Libya, they have no stable government. You have tons of people leaving from Libya towards Europe and from other African countries going through Libya towards Europe. Because why? Because they're fleeing European colonialism, European neo-colonialism, and these neocon wars, which is completely normal and the logical thing to do. But think of how devastating Europe and the West have been to Africa, that people leave their friends, their family, they leave everything that they know behind and risk drowning in the Mediterranean Sea just to get away from that situation. Like that is a stain on the West's history. And the slave trade that you have going on in Libya. I mean, man, Libya was a paradise under Gaddafi compared to what it is now. It was a fucking paradise, and they destroyed it. And this disgusting, backstabbing thief, Sarkozy, not only took the money, he took the money from Gaddafi, 5 million euros, and then he stabbed him in the back, he bombed him. And do you know why he did that? He did that because he was afraid of Gaddafi and his plan to make an African currency. So just like Europe has the euro, Gaddafi wanted an African dinar, a golden dinar. What's so controversial about that? America has the dollar. Most of Europe has the euro. Why shouldn't Africa have their own currency that they control, backed by their gold and their resources, and selling their resources in their African dinar, their golden dinar? Why shouldn't they? This was Gaddafi's plan. Gaddafi was pro pan-Arabism, so in the Muslim and the Arab world, and he was pro Pan-Africanism. Coming together either as one country or working as one entity, one establishment. In order to take back control of their money, of their resources that Europeans have been plundering for hundreds of years, and enslaving people. Gaddafi is against all of that. Just like Africa is against all of that. But Gaddafi, he went quote unquote too far. There's that email from Hillary Clinton with her advisor when they're talking about, Gaddafi has 144 tons of gold. The French are aware that he wants to use this to back this new currency. And why do you think the French are so particularly invested in stopping that? It's because 14 countries in Africa, if you look at their money, at the banknotes, you would think, well, these are different currencies from different countries, but they're not. They're all printed, minted, and controlled by France. At the end of the day, France controls the currencies and the monetary policy of 14 African countries. That is colonialism. Maybe you can call it neo-colonialism. I don't care. It's the same thing. Because France never really left, right? If they do things like this, how do they ever leave? It's another form of slavery. It's another form of control. Europeans, stealing, thieving, killing, enslaving, plundering Africa as usual, right? It's really disgusting. It's really disgusting, and so they killed him because if they had gone through with the African golden dinar, the US dollar would be weaker, and the French CFA franc, which is the name of this currency that I just told you about, which they have in 14 African countries, le CFA franc, finito, bye-bye. France would suddenly lose their control over these countries' economies and their monetary policy. And so they killed Gaddafi. That's why Sarkozy bombed Gaddafi and destroyed Libya, till now, they've never recovered. And that's why Hillary Clinton and NATO bombed Libya. And the fact, honestly, the fact that Russia and the UN Security Council allowed this is so disgusting, really. It's so disgusting because that was basically the go-ahead for the West to come in and go wild. I don't know what the Russians were thinking, if they thought that, well, it wouldn't be so bad or something. It's none of your business, if Gaddafi rules Libya or doesn't rule Libya. It's not your business, It's nobody's business. It's Libya's business. It's the Arab world's business, Africa's business, but it's not Europe's business. It's not NATO's business. It's not Russia's business. They have no right to talk about him, to kill him, to oust him from power. And I don't know if this is true, so don't quote me on this, but I've read some reports that the person who shot dead Gaddafi, he put 2 bullets in Gaddafi's head, was actually working for French intelligence. I don't know if this is true, and it doesn't matter whether it's true, even if it's not true. Did France bomb Libya? Yes. Did they destroy Libya? Yes. Did Sarkozy stab Gaddafi in the back? Yes. I mean, what a disgusting low-life rat. He should be facing it. Look, man, if Putin has a warrant out for his arrest from the ICC, then you gotta do it for Sarkozy. Come on, man. Like, what these people did to Libya is way worse. Way worse. So why doesn't the International Criminal Court actually prosecute war criminals? We have tons of them in Europe. Tons and tons. David Cameron was also at the time, helping to destroy Libya. We have tons of war criminals. Putin is the least of our fucking worries. Why don't we go after the war criminals? Why doesn't the ICC do its job? All they do is go after African leaders and then leave the European white ones alone. Funny, right? Double standards. Triple, quadruple standards. Right? So the fact that the French court is giving Nicolas Sarkozy a slap on the wrist, 1 year with an ankle monitor, ankle bracelet. Jesus Christ, man. If that was somebody else, they would have gotten way more. And I'm not saying that you should punish people like crazy and send them to a penal colony in the Pacific like the French used to do. I'm not saying that. I'm saying treat people, give them the same leniency and mercy that you give corrupt criminals like Nicolas Sarkozy, who doesn't even deserve it, who doesn't give a crap to repent. These people have no, they have no conscience. They have no soul. They have no moral compass. They have no values. They are murderers of the worst kind. Nicolas Sarkozy, especially taking money from Gaddafi, going to Libya, begging him for millions so that he can get elected, only to go and bomb him. That is, this guy is the lowest politician that you could possibly think of. The lowest of the low, the scum of the earth, really. Jesus, who needs enemies with friends like that? Truly, Gaddafi went to Paris and Sarkozy was calling him a brother and all this stuff. Disgusting, man. They stabbed him 50 times in the back. There's nothing Gaddafi did that warrants what happened to him being lynched like that. They lynched him literally, but in the full sense, of the term. They lynched him. They mutilated him. They executed him. You're telling me, it's about democracy. Democracies don't lynch people. If you believe in democracy, you don't lynch someone. Even if you know they're guilty, you go through a trial, you give him a fair trial. Where was his due process? You're behaving worse than him, according to what you say he's doing in this. You're worse than him. You're a million times worse. And they still going on calling it regime this, regime that. Man, you sound so pathetic. Just do this exercise with me. Say the David Cameron regime or the Joe Biden regime. Doesn't that sound goddamn ridiculous? Why does our media, they claim to be objective and then they throw terms in like that? That's not objective. Even if you're saying the truth about, an incident that happened, you are qualifying a foreign government as authoritarian. You know, they throw in these words, the dictator, Bashar al-Assad. Dictator according to who? According to the editor-in-chief? According to your government? If it's the government, why are you parroting the government's line? Who makes this decision to qualify these terms? Based on what? You know, man, I can, by your own, you know, with your own logic and your own standards, you can pretty much call every European leader a dictator and authoritarian, and you know, we'd be here all day. They have no respect. They have no there's nothing objective about anything they do. Just even today, I swear to God, you saw the article I just read to you. Oh, Nicolas Sarkozy received billions from the Gaddafi regime. You're the fucking regime. You're the regime. You still control Africa. That's not a regime. What you doing in Africa? What you did to Africa? That's not a regime. What you did in Algeria? You want to talk about authoritarianism? Jesus, man. You know, they call these people dictators. Gaddafi is a choir boy compared to you. A choir boy. This guy did nothing on earth to deserve a lynching like that. Not even close. Jesus. Now, they're so disgusting, man. You know, Gaddafi was the longest serving Arab leader at the time, you know, in history, since 1969, right? Revolutionary. Yeah, there are bad things about him. So what? There are bad things about everybody. That guy loved his people. He loved his country. He built stuff in his country, the irrigation system, the man-made river, the great man-made river. No one has ever done anything close to that. How are you gonna turn around and tell me this guy is a dictator and doesn't like bullshit? The women's rights, you know, the newlyweds, all of these policies, the Green Book. Yeah, we can sit here all day and say, oh well, this politician did this and he said, okay, but there are limits. What you're comparing him to is obscene. It's hyperbole. You know, the reason they do this is so that when the bombings, you know, the bombs start to fall and the bombings take place, you don't question it. Say, oh yeah, well, he's a dictator, so of course we bomb him. It's like, it's logical, right? They condition you and brainwash you. They brainwash you. That's what the media are for. That's what they do. We're going to get to the next topic in just a second. Give me 1 second. We'll be right back. I'm just refilling my coffee, okay? Don't go anywhere. And if you have a donation, send it our way. Thanks for supporting independent journalism, guys. Even $1 a month on Patreon. Anything helps. And I'm streaming on Rumble now. And we'll get Odyssey going next time as well. Claudia, give me the number of Patreons, please. Of patrons, rather. Forgive me, boy. We've been at this for quite some time. I tend to sound like David Niven. Yes, the actor. Rather fine one, I might add. So yes, here we have. Where is it? I'm checking to see if we have any new patrons today. Oh, we do. Look, we got 2 new patrons. We got Charles and we got Chacha Lupa. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Let me play you a crab dance. Let's go.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch out.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انتوا كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro and then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me?
Ladies and
gentlemen, I'll have 2 number 9s. A number 9 large.
Be
got him.
Myself, I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Why you text Sanders? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Man, Claudia, you killed me with this crab dance. Really, the depke. I love it. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Right now, let me check quickly, because I've been blabbing for 2 hours. Let me check. We have 673. Listen, guys, the goal is to hit 700. We've got literally the same amount of people watching right now. There's like 600 people watching. And all we need to do, we just need 27 people to join, and then we've hit the goal, and then we get a new crab dance. Come on, guys, 27. All you got to do is donate $1 a month or £1 a month. You can stop anytime you like. That way, it helps me and allows me to do my work. I depend entirely on you guys. So if you enjoy my videos and you enjoy learning about international relations and all this stuff, I'd be really happy if you could please support the show. So there are many ways you can send something on PayPal. Forgive me, those of you who send something on PayPal. I'm not getting notifications, and I try refreshing, but I can't see the notes. Forgive me if I haven't read out your thing yet. I almost played a crab dance once again. I will when we get a new member. Here it is. So actually, we got 2 more just now. We were at 673, but we're trying to get to 700. So please, guys, I'm counting on you. Let's do it. And as soon as people join, I'll play crab dance. By the way, some of you have green names on YouTube, which means that you're members. Which is same thing, basically. So I hope you enjoy the emojis. And yeah, okay. I don't like blabbing so much about donating and all this stuff. I have to do it, but anyway, let's get back to it. Okay. Man, the situation in Pakistan is outrageous. You see, the former Prime Minister, Imran Khan, they ousted him last year in a no-confidence vote. And ever since, they are trying everything, imaginable to disqualify him from running for Prime Minister, from participating in this year's elections. You need to understand something, man. This man, without a shred of a doubt, he is unequivocally the most popular politician in Pakistan at the moment, if not ever. And it's kind of it's crazy because right now, let me do the recap. Ever since he was ousted, he's been doing these huge rallies. He goes to Lahore, he goes to Rawalpindi, he goes to Karachi, he goes to Peshawar. Everywhere he goes, massive rallies, and of course in Islamabad, massive. You can't even, man, I showed you the videos. My brain can't even process how many people are turning out for this guy. And because he has popular support, he's able to rally all these people, and he's been trying to pressure the government to just give us elections. Let the people decide, because if the people decide, he's coming back. So you know what they're doing? They're accusing him of terrorism, of corruption. They have. I'm not exaggerating. This is the actual number. Over 150 cases, court cases, have been opened against him in the last weeks. 150. They dragged this guy down to the police station, and while he's in prison, They rearrested him and slapped him with 12 more charges. And people are seeing this video. They got so outraged. I mean, look at this. Look at this.
You know, I will be here till my last breath. There's no question of me leaving my country.
अब एक और प्लान बना है और ये मैं आप सबको बता रहा हूं, मैं अपनी अदलिया को बता रहा हूं, मैं खास तौर पे पंजाब पुलिस को बता रहा हूं। आईजी पंजाब और आईजी इस्लामाबाद, पीछे इनके हैंडलर्स, इन्होंने प्लान क्या बनाया? जमान पाक के बाहर या आज या कल ऑपरेशन का प्लान है। और वो क्या ऑपरेशन है?
So he's talking about how the people conspiring against him to stop him from winning the elections and participating in the elections are sending saboteurs into his rallies, into the crowds at his rallies, to kill police and then make it look like his supporters are violent. And he gave some interviews here talking about how he's literally surrounded by police inside of his house. Okay?
Now, Pakistani police are still surrounding the home of the former Prime Minister, Imran Khan, in Lahore. Khan has issued a tweet saying that he expects to be re-arrested. Police say Khan is sheltering supporters who were involved in violent protests. The opposition leader's arrest last week sparked street demonstrations across Pakistan, but the Supreme Court declared his detention invalid and he was released and allowed to return home. And we can now speak to Pakistan's former Prime Minister, Imran Khan, who joins me from his home in Lahore. Thank you for your time, Mr. Khan. Now, we understand the police have surrounded your house. Can you tell us what the situation is at the moment, and can you confirm that you expect to be arrested again?
Well, police is around my house, not in as large numbers as they were last night. Because last night the plan was that they said there were 40 terrorists hidden in my house and they were going to come and grab these terrorists. So therefore, the whole area was surrounded by police. But what I did was I asked all the journalists beforehand, I said, come over to my house and see where the terrorists are. So that diffused the situation because clearly there were no terrorists. So that's when the police could not take action. But the answer to your question, do I expect to be re-arrested? Yes, it could happen anytime because even though I'm on bail on everything now, the police can't arrest me on any charges because the courts have given me bail. But unfortunately, right now, the law of the jungle is prevailing. Might is right. 7,500 of my workers have been arrested. All my senior leadership has been arrested. So, what will happen, I don't know, but I expect to be re-arrested.
Mr. Khan, the Pakistani government says that you are sheltering some of your supporters who are accused of attacking the army. So do you reject that claim?
It is absolute nonsense. What happened was that when they illegally abducted me from the High Court precincts, it was all illegal, and the way they grabbed me, they beat all my lawyers, people got injured, as if I was some terrorist. And those images created this demonstrations all over Pakistan because my party is by far the biggest party, federal party in Pakistan. Now, what they did was they used these mass demonstrations that took place, they perpetuated violence, which is, I don't remember such violence. They shot dead 25 people, which we already know, but there are others which we can't know because then they started arresting 7,500 workers have been arrested. We don't know what's going on. All my leadership has been arrested. So they used that pretext to crush my party because this is the election year and my party's poll in the polls, it's 70% ratings right now.
70%.
So in order to crush the party that we don't contest the elections. This is why all this is happening.
Man, you got to understand, Imran Khan is not just Pakistan's former prime minister. He is, a star cricket player. He used to play for Pakistan's team. He went to Oxford. I mean, the guy's a movie star. He's really a movie star. There's no doubt he's very charismatic. He knows how to speak to people. He knows how to, appeal to them. And I think it's really disgusting how they're trying to smear him. I don't remember the name of it, but I was watching some, a podcast. I think it was maybe from India. I don't remember, but they were basically saying that, he's a drug addict, something with sex, he's as corrupt as the people that he was trying to go after. I mean, what is this stuff? It's just like smear tactics. Do you actually have anything tangible? What has he what wrong has he done? What act of evil has he committed that warrants him being almost assassinated? A few months ago, 6 months ago, someone tried to assassinate him. How is this acceptable that he has 150 cases opened against him in the span of a few days? What, man? He says this in an interview, but a hardened criminal wouldn't be able to commit 150 crimes in that time span. It's logistically impossible. Even if it's really so disgusting. They're throwing everything at him, including the kitchen sink, to bar him from being elected. Because in Pakistan, if you're convicted of corruption, of terrorism, you are disqualified for life from holding public office. And therefore, they would succeed in preventing his return to power. And in Pakistan, you guys need to understand that, Pakistan's a beautiful, beautiful country. I lived there when I was young, when I was a child, and I have many, many fond memories. I absolutely love it. And, Pakistan is a country where it's kind of like Egypt, where the government rules and administers, but the army, you need the backing of the army to have a solid foundation and to get things done. And Pakistan has a very, very, very strong army. And when I say strong, I don't just mean that they have nuclear weapons, which they do, but that they are politically, they are a titan. And they are always, always in the equation in Pakistan's politics. It's inescapable. They're omnipresent. They're always there. And Imran Khan, of course the ISI, their intelligence service, extraordinarily capable and powerful. Now, when he prime minister, he was saying you shouldn't criticize them or go after them because you would fracture the country and so on. And I can understand what he meant, because he was trying to run a stable government. But the problem is that he had a few traitors that defected to the opposition and just gave those 4 votes that they needed to oust him. And now, he's naming names and he's saying it's this general who's trying to assassinate me. And he's saying it's some elements within the army. And I don't know if this is true, but I can tell you one thing, that this guy, without a shadow of a doubt, they are trying everything to bar him from holding public office and to bar him from running in this year's election, because he would easily win. If you want the will of the people to be implemented, why not call snap elections? Because the vote of no confidence last year, came out of the blue. So you got rid of the prime minister, but give the people a choice. Give the people a choice. Why won't they let Pakistan vote? Why won't they let Pakistanis vote? It's like he said, he has the overwhelming support of the people. Let the people have have their say. And Imran Khan, he said at the time that the Americans also want to get rid of him. There was a letter that he wanted to publish, and the High Court in Islamabad sealed it, prevented it. Said it's not. He's not allowed to publish it because he the prime minister. His it's classified. He wants to publish it, and they're saying no, you're not allowed to. So he wasn't even allowed to declassify his own document, which was basically a threat sent to him by the Americans that if you don't do this and that, we're going to get rid of you one way or another.
And no prime minister in Pakistan, not a single prime minister in Pakistan's history has been able to serve their full term of 5 years. It's insane. It's like they either get assassinated, they get screwed out by vote of no confidence, like in Imran Khan's case. Just, for whatever reason, they just never finish the term. Not because they don't want to, but because the situation is so tense, and there's always a real power struggle. Now, Imran Khan, he doesn't come from a powerful political family like Bhutto or Shabazz. He's viewed, they used to call him Mr. Clean because he was he's a common man. Obviously his cricket success makes him he gives him movie star status, and he's very popular. But the fact that he comes from, a humble background, he doesn't come from some elite family, he doesn't come from a political dynasty, and he wanted to, clean up the government. They call him Mr. Clean. And so, I think it's disgusting that they're calling him, corrupt and all this stuff. It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous and fabricated. Why? How come none of these cases appeared when he was prime minister or before? They're coming out now because they want to block him from winning the election. Pure and simple. And I always remind you, one of the reasons why the Americans want to get rid of him is because he started criticizing the war on terror. Remember Pakistan? They lost 20,000 people, 20,000 Pakistanis killed in the war on terror because it's in the mountain areas of the Khyber Pass between Pakistan and Afghanistan. You have, this is where the Taliban and Al Qaeda came from, and even when the British ruled it, it was always such a strategic point. Because of its vantage and its geostrategic location. And so just my point is that Pakistan, one way or another, was dragged into the war on terror, and the Americans killed a ton of Pakistanis, and civilians. And he came out and criticized them for that. He said, we helped you in the war on terror. We were your allies, and you just screwed us and killed some of our civilians. And the other thing is that the day of the invasion, when the Russians went into Ukraine last year, where was Imran Khan? He was in Moscow. I don't think he knew that was going to happen, and he came out and said, I found myself in Moscow the day this was happening. But he still, he decided to buy tons of wheat and gas and so on. And, even afterwards, he refused to sanction the Russians. He understands we're transitioning to a multipolar world. And, Pakistan is it's a beautiful, beautiful country. I love it. And I wish for calm, and I wish for the people to have their say, because and by extension for him to be reelected, because he was four people in the government decided that he shouldn't be the prime minister, and 70%, as he said, according to the latest opinion polls, want him to be the prime minister. Is this a democracy or not? Pakistan is a democracy, and they need to let the people have their say. Period. So I worry about this guy's safety. I really worry. But you have to consider he survived an assassination attempt, and an ousting. Every single case that they arrest him for, he's given bail. Alhamdulillah, he's safe. So. God wants to protect this man. He's definitely protecting this man. I'll tell you that. Here, let me actually play you the rest of the clip since we're watching.
Khan, you've spoken about the street protests that were sparked by your arrest last week. Will you be calling for calm among your supporters to avoid further violence, or are you encouraging people to protest?
Look, the protest took place when they saw me being abducted from the precincts of the High Court by the army. That's why the protest took place.
Yeah, I hate this stuff where they start accusing. This is exactly what his opponents want. They want his entire movement to be stained, to be portrayed as violent. And you know, she's a journalist. She's asking him a question. Fair enough. She has to challenge him. But you know, the way the media start framing it is that his people are violent. Not, dude. Look at how they arrested this guy. Look at this video. Look at this. I love how cool he is. He's like Gaddafi. Like he can't be bothered with them. He's just like, yeah, all right, I'll wait for you. Go on. Here's the video where he gets, look at that. All this police, all this riot police for one guy. There, you know. You would think they captured bin Laden or Hitler. What is this? Look, come on, this is outrageous. This is outrageous. And then he, you know, getting beaten and all this stuff. No, this is not okay. This is why people were outraged. You can see who's being violent, all right? You can see what's going on. Look at that. What is that? What are you doing that to that woman? So, you know, it's here, let me play the rest of the clip.
No protest right now. There is no public disorder. But what is happening is that there's a crackdown, unprecedented crackdown taking place. I again repeat, my entire senior leadership is in jail. They get bail from court. As they come out of the court, they again get rearrested. There are women who've been arrested. A lot of the women living in awful conditions because it's extremely hot there. And unfortunately, you know, right now it is a reign of terror we are facing.
Mr. Khan, I'd like to ask you
right now.
I'd like to ask you, if I may, about the dozens of cases that have been brought against you in recent months, mostly on charges of corruption, but there's also terrorism, contempt of court. I'd like to hear from you. Do you deny all of them?
Man, you can't even keep up. I swear to God, this is my job. I'm trying to keep track of what's happening so I can report to you. I lost count. I gave up. I just gave up. Every hour there's a new case against him. You know, they're handing them out like you know, poker chips or something. You know, okay, here's you know, maybe they'll give him, maybe they'll charge him with jaywalking next, or you know, littering or something, and loitering as well.
There are 150 cases on me.
Jesus.
Out of those 150 cases, 4 were when I was in jail. When I was inside the jail, there were 4 more criminal cases against me. There are 40 terrorism cases against me. 15 criminal cases in one day. Even a hardened criminal could not commit 15 crimes in a day. So
40 charges of terrorism. You know, there are people in Guantanamo Bay who have never even been charged with terrorism, which is actually extremely sad, but kind of, you know, it goes to show you how obscene the situation is in both, of course, right? I mean, they abuse people in Guantanamo Bay. It's beyond torture. It's something else. It's so evil. but even those quote unquote suspected terrorists never charged, and he's hit with 40 terrorists. Get out of here! Come on. Well, what is this?
There are 2 corruption cases which are being contested. So, I mean, as someone who's been known in this country for 50 years, never committed one crime, certainly in the last few months, he's had 150 cases. No one believes this. People know me in this country for 50 years.
You have accused the country's military chief of being behind your last arrest, and you've also accused a senior general of being involved in a plan to kill you. These, of course, are serious accusations. Do you have evidence that supports these?
Yo, man, do you see this kind of framing? It's like, we're going to smear you and make you look guilty. Why doesn't she ask the people and the people hitting him, slapping him with these charges, if they have any evidence for these allegations of terrorism and corruption and this and that? Why does he have to prove his innocence? They're the ones who have to prove that he's guilty. It's not the other way around. You know, and he does have evidence against those people. And when it was like in the case of the letter that he got, the High Court forbid him from even releasing it. Man. So, you know, here she's like, do you have evidence against those generals? And then before it's like, well, you know, you've been accused of these things. Prove your innocence. Instead of, you know, asking the courts whether they have any evidence against Imran Khan. They always do this when they want to smear someone. Now look, maybe I'm misreading her, you know, but this sounds way too familiar. They do this with, you know, with Assange. They do this with anyone that they're trying to, you know, they try to make you look guilty, and you know, they basically just repeat the same smears, and you know, it's obscene because Imran Khan is innocent. They have no evidence against him. That's why he's released on bail the whole time. There are 40 terrorism charges against him. Would you release a suspected terrorist? 40 cases of terrorism against him. Would you release them on bail? Obviously, all of this is crap. I mean, you know, it's the framing that they have in the Western press sometimes. And I know in Britain we have a very specific way of interviewing people, which sounds like this exact nasty crap that I'm saying, which it's very challenging. Even if you agree with the person you're interviewing, you gotta go. You know, you gotta be really mean and tough with them. But it, you know, too often it comes across as you know, repeating the smears against the person. And I think there's a better way to approach this stuff.
The allegations that you've made.
The senior military intelligence officer was involved in my assassination attempt. I preempted it. I warned everyone that this is going to happen. When it did happen, I was lucky to be alive. 12 people got bullet wounds, one died, and they would not let me register a case. It was my fundamental right that the suspects who were involved, I should have registered a case so they could be investigated. They never even allowed an investigation. So how am I going to bring my evidence forward? And whatever evidence was coming through a joint investigation committee, they sabotaged it. So how am I going to bring my evidence in public? And as for the charge of the army chief, well, the army who picked me up from the High Court illegally, ruled by the Supreme Court. And
just to make sure you guys understood that point, what he's referring to, he was already in jail, and the army came in and grabbed him from the jail and moved him to a different location. And then the Supreme Court ruled that second arrest while he was in jail was illegal. I mean, this is like, it's almost comical. Like, you know, you wouldn't even see this stuff in a movie. It's so ridiculous. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Orders to the army comes right from the top. So one man takes the decision.
Mr. Khan, your country finds itself in a political crisis right now. How do you see this?
Look, man,
She's asking him what the solution is. Let the people have elections. Let them have their say. Give them the right to express their will through the democratic process. Give them elections. They refused to do that when he was calling for snap elections right after he was ousted. That was the right. He was right to call for snap elections because you just removed the prime minister, the most popular politician in the country. So a bunch of people are conspiring. And again, they did this clean. I agree. They did it clean. They did it by the book. They did it legally and they ousted him. Fair play. But give him the elections. Let the people, if not for Imran Khan, let the people decide. No, can't do that. No, here's a terrorism charge. Here's a contempt of court charge. Here's a jaywalking charge. Here's an eating ice cream too fast charge. You punched a toddler as well. They're going to come up with they're going to come up with everything. He's going to have 1 million cases against him by the end of the year. I mean, it's obscene. It's comical. Come on. Let the man live. Leave him be and let him resume his premiership and return to the office that he was elected to hold because the people support him. That's a fact. You can't change that. Guys, thank you so much. Clara, thank you for the donation. If you guys have been sending donations on PayPal, please excuse me because I can't look at them right now. I will try to read them out to you if you have questions or comments next time. So again, I'm very sorry for that. Thank you to everybody who's watching on Rumble and Rockfin as well, because now I'm streaming on the other sites and I'll have Odyssey working for you next time as well. I think I would really suggest you guys subscribe on those other sites as well. Just in case they do something to my YouTube channel, God forbid, then we have a backup on Rockfin, Rumble, Odyssey. So you'll find me on all of them. And thank you, Beluga, for the chat. Yes, I know Kevork, and I've had him on this channel before. We talked about the Armenian genocide. So, I hope you go and watch that because even though it's a very sad topic, we both lost family or ancestors in the Armenian genocide, so it was really nice to talk about that on here. I mean, on camera and do it live with you guys. So yeah, please check him out. He's great, and the videos on this channel. We did it on the anniversary of the Armenian genocide, so last year, not this year, last year. Thank you, Julia, and thank you, P. Connolly. Thank you, Beluga, as well. You see, and great to know you have had a show together. Thank you, and thank you, Jenny, and Gunny says, yeah, right. I mean, again, I'm not attacking, the army in Pakistan. I'm just showing you what happened, man. Pakistan is just one of those countries like Egypt where you need to have the army support. And I don't know what he did to piss them off, but it's sad because I can see very clearly it's a very, very clear-cut situation that this guy's so popular that no one comes even close to his level of popularity. His party, it just steamrolls any other movement in Pakistan. He needs to get along with the army. They need to get along with him. How it was the last couple of years. They need to have that balance, and I hope it's struck again because, to the betterment of everyone in Pakistan and its stables, that they have a stable situation is very important. So thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Robert as well, and Baron. All of you guys, thank you so much for supporting the show. Claudia updated the PayPal, the thing that Biden is sniffing. So basically here it is. Let me take it. 671. We went to 673. There you go, guys. So let's hit 700, guys. We just need 27 more people to join. And you can donate $1 a month or £3 a month, any amount you like, any currency you like. The way things are going, you better start giving me renminbi and rupees and rubles. I'm basically telling you that the BRICS economies, their stuff is taking off.
again, Ukraine war, kind of the ripple effect of that, a major consequence is speeding up multipolarization and our transition into a multipolar world. Thank you so much, David Hart and Maureen, for joining on Patreon. That means we're at 675. So guys, we're 2 people closer to hitting the goal. We just need 25 more of you to join. Please consider donating, because it supports my work. I rely entirely on your donations to do this work, and you would be supporting independent media. So thank you so much. You guys get a crab dance from me for joining. Let's go.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. Claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انتوا كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
After we lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro and then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s. For number 9 large.
we got him.
I told myself, I know it's not.
Wait. You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Hey, thank you so much, man. I love a good laugh. And Hookah just joined on Patreon. So once again, I will play a crab dance for you. You guys are very kind. So now we're 24 people away from hitting the goal. And again, if you prefer PayPal or Cash App or Venmo, all of those are available. Claudia is very kind, and good enough to post the links in the chat. And yeah, I mean, every time we hit the goal, we get a better crab dance. So I originally created it, and I did most of it. I have to take credit for it because it is brilliant. But Claudia added the latest ones, with Trump, and that was so funny. And the Depke, really just excellent. I have to admit, building on top of my greatness in this endeavor, I'm most grateful for that point. You've done a fine good job, yes. All right, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Hookah, for joining. And by the way, some of you have noticed on YouTube that some of the people in the comments have green names. That's if you join on YouTube directly as a member, and it's the same thing. I just get a monthly donation from you, but you get emojis. And Claudia put my face and a bunch of other things as. Hold on, let me kind of copy paste some of them. Is that Hillary Clinton? Oh my God! I mean, this is the worst advertisement ever. Join so you can have a Hillary Clinton emoji. Who the hell wants a Hillary Clinton emoji? Here's one of Bashar al-Assad. This is his face at the Arab League today. Hold on. I'm pinning that comment because it's funny, if I may say so myself. Oh man. Is that Maduro? Yeah, I think that's Maduro. It is. This is great. And I like that there's a shoe next to Bush's face. Claudia, you did Muqtada justice. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Please share the video, share the segments, educate people, or argue with them, but just send them the videos. And if you post them on social media, please hashtag my name. Maybe we can get it trending. You put hashtag Richard Medhurst. Let's try and get it trending. And thank you very much.
Take care, Masalame. Bye-bye.
Sweden wanted to join NATO. They broke with their decades-long neutral stance. Turkey was one of the only countries, I think, along with Hungary, that was saying, we're not going to let you in, because you need to have consensus, right? You need all the members in NATO to say, okay, you can join. Their bid has kind of been in limbo because Turkey wanted to, extract several concessions. It was very clear that they really want to join NATO in Sweden, and they were doing everything they could to appease the Turks. And then this moron comes in front of the Turkish embassy and burns the Quran. I understand that in their point of view, this is freedom of expression, and you're in Sweden, you can do whatever you like. But you have to remember that if you're trying to get Turkey support, maybe wait until after you've gotten it. I mean, this is just dumb from a diplomatic level. They're doing everything to appease Turkey, and then because of one idiot, they let this go to waste. The Germans and the Americans have decided that it would be a good idea to send Ukraine tanks. German tanks against the Russian. Man, I'm perplexed by this. What do they think is going to happen? Because even if you can train the Ukrainian crews who are used to Soviet tanks to operate British tanks, and then you got to train them to operate German tanks, and then you got to train them to operate American tanks, and that's if they can even maintain the logistical supply line to work with these tanks, to keep them running. What kind of door are you opening now for the Russians to do? I mean, this is very clearly escalation. While Germany and the US are saying, yeah, we're going to give Ukraine tanks, the doomsday clock has been moved to 90 seconds to midnight. So this is basically, it's a measurement of how close we are to the end of the world, to the apocalypse, to annihilating the planet with nuclear weapons, right? And this is the closest it's ever been to midnight, okay? Midnight representing the end. Ukraine's most senior military commander has said that his forces need about 300 Western tanks. Over the last year, NATO allies in Eastern Europe supplied Ukraine with Soviet-era and Russian-made tanks that have been ground down or destroyed in constant fighting. Soviet-era and Russian-made tanks. Now, Ukraine, having been a Soviet satellite state and part of the Soviet Union, it was part of Russia, all of its military personnel being trained on Russian tanks. What do you think they're going to do with American tanks or German tanks, which they are not trained to operate? The Ukrainians know how to operate Russian tanks. That's all they know how to operate. The Ukrainians only use Soviet stuff, right? Until the last couple of years and until now. This is the first major influx of NATO weapons. And again, NATO has been training Ukrainian forces, but Challenger tanks, this is brand new. If they can't even use the tanks that they're trained to use, what makes you so confident they're going to know how to use a Leopard 2 or an M1A2 or a Challenger 2? Man, people train on those things for fucking months and years. Both of these home secretaries, okay, Suella Braverman and Priti Patel, both their parents came to the United Kingdom, and under their own laws as home secretary, they themselves would not have been able to come to the UK, to be born in the UK, and to have a life there. So, the hypocrisy is so disgusting, I got what I wanted, I'm okay, I'm secure, I can live in the UK, I'm the home secretary now I'm gonna shut the gates. Now I'm going to screw people that have literally nothing, that are so desperate they're, risking drowning in the Channel or the Mediterranean Sea. People have to resort to risking drowning. They have to resort to, hiding in trucks or swimming across the Channel, if everyone's ever done that, crossing the Channel because of her policies, because she forces people into doing that, right? So you literally have no choice. You have to be in the UK to begin the application. What are people supposed to do? Just teleport, for 5 minutes, write down the form and just get out of the UK? This is ridiculous. She's a liar, just like the one, her predecessor, Priti Patel. Why is Germany reluctant to give the Ukrainians tanks? That's a really tough one. I wonder why. Germany has long refused to send its most potent weapons to countries in conflict, a byproduct of its legacy of starting World War II and World War I. That's horse manure, because Germany does send weapons to countries in war. Saudi Arabia is one of them. So to get around this, the trick that they use is they don't sell the tanks and the ordnance directly to Saudi Arabia. They move it to Italy, and then from Italy they sell it to the Saudis. So they basically just insert a middleman, and that's how they get around this very, honorable principle of theirs, which they never abide by. You know, if you go and you look up the Yemen war, I mean, you're going to see weapons from fucking everywhere. You know, the Canadians have been selling weapons and making money. Britain, the US, Australia, everyone. And the Germans are no exception. So I mean, this is, the idea is true, but they fucking send weapons. They goddamn do. They do. Do you see how they move like snakes? Do you see how they move like snakes? They get the media to whisper in your ear, oh, don't go on strike. No, don't strike. It'll cripple the economy. Oh. No, it's not, you know, like giving the army 800 billion to fucking bomb, you know, 20 countries. That's okay. That money, we can spare that. But if you go on strike where, oh my God, we're going to lose like 2 billion a day, well, we can't afford that. You know, the Pentagon has been audited, I think 5 times now, and every single audit was failed. That means they don't know where the money's going. The Pentagon is like a black fucking hole that sucks trillions of dollars, and the government doesn't even know where the money's going. I can tell you where it's going. You don't need to audit the Pentagon. I can tell you, me, Richard Medhurst, that money is going towards drug deals, towards arms sales, towards arms purchases, towards CIA fucking budgets and embassy coffee. That's where that shit is going, man. That shit is going to the spooks. That shit's going to the bombers. That shit's going to the paramilitaries. That's where it's going. You don't need to scratch your head. That's where it's going. And apparently that's an acceptable loss. That's an acceptable use of American dollars and taxpayer dollars. But, you know, going on strike, oh, that's too much of an inconvenience.